On Saturday, June 15th, we finally saw the fight come together for Gervonta Tank Davis and Frank the Ghost Martin. This was a promotion that had both men talking a great deal going in. They had a history where they had met previously years ago and sparred together, and there was no love lost under those circumstances. But on the 15th of June, they had a chance to come together and resolve, like men, any issues that they may have had. And the public got a chance to pay and witness. This was a fight going in that many people thought would be very competitive, though Frank Martin hadn't fought at that level with the likes of a Gervonta Tank Davis. And given the fact of Davis's most recent opponents had been limited in certain areas, particularly like athleticism, there were curiosity about this. But let's talk about it, and let's talk about what might be next. Frank the Ghost Martin had an opportunity this past Saturday, June 15th, to present himself to the boxing community and the world in a title fight challenge against WBA champion Gervonta Tank Davis for the WBA lightweight title. And so Frank came out with all intent and purpose to carve his name. However, being that the circumstances, the stakes, became what they were, he found out that definitely there are levels to this. The sport of boxing, you hear people say certain things quite a bit. And cliches are a dime a dozen when it comes to the sport of boxing. But there are truly levels to this boxing thing. And so Frank saw himself in there with the likes of Tank Davis, and he competed. But veterans, experienced personnel in this sport, they understand that it's not a race, it's a marathon. And so now, in the aftermath, we've witnessed the fact that Frank Martin lost this opportunity in the 8th round of this fight. He was stopped by Gervonta with a series of lefts that were set up amazingly just a couple of rounds before. You see, Frank started out boxing and moving laterally pretty decently. But even his trainer, Derrick James, had told him, hey man, keep the fight in the center of the ring. For whatever reason, Martin was retreating to the ropes. And that gave Tank Davis an opportunity to give him different looks, feints, baits, where he could try to see if Frank would nibble, take the bite. And Frank did. Retreating to the ropes in the sport of boxing is not a strategy. It's a line of where you run out of real estate. The most athletic of fighters understand this. This is why they learn to circle and turn their opponents. They learn how to advance behind their shots and punches that they throw in order to move the opponent back to give them more space. You don't want to give in. You do not want to submit. And there's a danger zone with the ropes. I talk about it all the time. I call it the triangle. That's where the ropes come together in corners, the neutral corners and the blue and red corners that the fighters fight out of. When you get trapped within that space, all of a sudden, your ability to be able to circle, move laterally, advance forward, or even try to retreat, that space is now shrunken. And your options are limited. But an experienced veteran fighter knows exactly what to do to you in those instances. By cutting you off, limiting your options, all they have to do now is bait you into revealing to them what you may do if they press the order. This is what Tank discovered about Frank. And it's very unfortunate that Frank didn't listen to his trainer, because his trainer did tell him to keep the fight in the center of the ring. But what I would like to know is, has he practiced in the gym keeping the fights in the center of the ring? Has he practiced in the gym how to remain defensively responsible even in close proximity to an opponent? There are drills that you can work on to move your body, turn and shift and move your feet, sliding around. I didn't see any of that. Sometimes you might have to put your hands on your opponent to physically turn them. The ref will intervene and say, hey, don't do that. But do fighters always do things that they're not supposed to do in the ring? Excessive use of certain types of tactics can definitely lead to point deductions. But all the same, you give your opponent something to think about. To be able to control your opponent is important. This is one of the reasons why some of these fighters need to look at film. They truly do, because film study is important. It's not about studying film necessarily of your potential opponent, but learn the history of the sport, because there's nothing that you do that hasn't been done prior to your arrival on the scene. Boxing has been around for 200 years. Man has 2 arms and 2 legs, 1 brain. different levels of strength and agility, different gifts of athleticism and punching power. But there are familiar aspects that you can study. Some you can even adopt to make yourself better. Fighters like James Toney, lights out, studied film of old fighters, Ezzard Charles, Archie Moore. He loved those guys and he fought like them. They were defensive stalwarts, but very game fighters who could fight in close proximity, box at distance, and pick and choose when they would do either against specific opponents. This is why guys need to study. The triangle is not your friend. The center of the ring is. If you walk to the center of the ring, you gain a greater perspective of your environment, the real estate, the lay of the land. The really good veteran fighters, before their bouts, they'll go check out the ring. Test how soft or hard the canvas is, how loose or tight the ropes are, the distance from the center of the ring to the ropes. Because when you're actually in the match, you have to know, how many steps do I take before I get back to the danger zone, and how I can refrain from having my opponent trap me there. So, this is all a part of it. This is why it's called a sweet science. Many people don't grasp that. They just see guys in there moving around and punching and throwing shots at each other. Getting dropped, getting hit, blocking, tying up, going down. There's so much more. So Tank prevailed Saturday, June 15th. He not only improved his record, which is now 30-0 with 28 KOs, but he's shown that he's a thinking fighter in there. I would not necessarily say he has a high ring IQ, because that's two different things. But he's experienced and he knows his own limitations, and he operates very well within those limitations. That can't be denied. It may be one of the major reasons that he and his camp are not readily excited to take on the likes of some of the more experienced boxers, fighters in the sport. The Vasyl Lomachenkos, the Devin Haney's, the Shakur Stevensons. Because they have high ring IQ, aptitude, skill sets, abilities, and think on the fly. They can adjust. Just like he, if not better. So, when you have less experienced guys, you can take advantage. Some people don't know a lopsided matchup when they see one, because it's not always about the records. It's not even always about who you may have fought. But it could be telltale signs riddled within how you perform or do not. And Martin, whose record now has fallen to 18-1 with 12 KOs, came away with a tremendous lesson. And I only hope at the age of 29, he too can learn and gain from this experience. And you must listen to your corner. They are there for a reason. If you execute what they ask of you and you fail, you could always say, I did what my people told me to do. But if they're offering up advisement and you are not giving it a shot, you're going to run into problems. And then making up excuses is not what people want to hear. No. You got to be better than that. And the best way to get better than that is in the gym. Learn scenarios. Give offerings to your coaches and trainers. What do I do under these circumstances? You have to reveal to them what your fear is, because they can build around it. Yeah. They should reveal what their fears are about you. And you can build around it. Get better. Because if you don't take the time out to do it properly, there's only one outcome. And that's not what you want. Just remember, the gym is where you hone your craft. You've got to try. This is Stormy B Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Let me know what you think. Peace to everyone out there. And everyone, please remain safe.